I'm Dru Hammer, and here we are again at Hammered, because every heart has been hammered. And I'm so excited because I'm doing several episodes with Caroline Barnett from the Los Angeles Dream Center. And I want to dive into all the programs that you do. And I would love to hear the testimonies because I know that once a month, or when you would have graduations, you would have these people get
Yeah.
up and give their testimonies. And I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. And you think if they can survive, if
Yeah.
they can get through this,
Yeah.
if they can be healed, anybody can be healed. Because I'm telling you, what they have been through is a plight that's hard for us to even understand.
Right. And those stories never get old. And each one is
Never.
so personal.
Yes.
And I've never thought, or every time I've heard the stories, I think, no wonder you chose to numb out. No wonder
Right.
you ended up homeless. No wonder you ended up in your circumstances. And I would say this, that addiction hits every demographic,
Yes.
every class, every race. It seems that everyone has someone in their family that's struggling with addiction, which is
Right.
beautiful. Then at the Dream Center, we could take anyone. We have people coming from Texas, from Florida, from all over the
So all
United
over the
States.
country.
Yeah. And to be able to be that safe haven for people. And a lot of people have tried very expensive programs and they just don't work for them.
Well, Tyler Ramsey.
Yeah.
We had him on here and he said, I went to Betty Ford and it was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous facilities. But until I learned to forgive myself
Yeah.
and turn my life over to God, that is when true healing
Yeah.
began. And
Absolutely.
that's what you present.
Right.
So, what is one story that, I mean, I know I'm sure there's zillions of them, but
Mm-hmm.
tell us a few stories that really sticks out in your mind of women that their lives have been completely changed, or men.
Yeah. I think of this one young girl from Colorado. She was came from a very broken home, and then her stepdad started abusing her every night.
Mm.
And like he started at the age of 8, I think is when
Oh,
he came into her life, and he was
Lord
abusing her every
Jesus.
night.
Oh,
And one night she just did not want it, so she went and hid in her younger brother's bedroom. And her
I'm
sure
afraid.
enough, yeah, her stepdad went looking for her, found her in her little brother's room. So he beat her little brother so bad so that
Oh,
she would never do it again. And so sure enough, that she felt horrible that her little
where
brother
was the
experienced.
mother? I'm
Right.
not judging the mother, but I have to say, someone would have to kill me
Right.
before I would ever. But they also say that a lot of times they're so abusive to the woman that they have them in fear as well. And they, beat them and do whatever they need to do to keep them under submission.
Right.
But
Right.
your mind does go there.
Yeah, there's books on Amazon on how to break a woman.
Wow.
There's literal books on how to become a pimp, how to sell women, how to break women. That's available on Amazon right now.
Well, and when I first started working with the
Yeah.
trafficked women, and that was before it was a thing,
Right.
and you called me one day and said, "Do you feel like you can do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I can certainly try."
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a depth of despair that I was not familiar with, that
Right.
I actually said the wrong thing because I didn't know how to handle them and I had to learn.
Right.
But I said to one of the women, and it was the very first time we got together, and she kept calling her pimp daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then she told us everything her pimp daddy did. And he was a vet from Vietnam vet, and he would do the same torture on his women that he got when he was in Vietnam. He
Mm-hmm.
would put them in cages with strobe lights and beat them. And they couldn't sleep. They were so sleep deprived. And
Right.
he would just wear them down psychologically. And, me, this pipsqueak that didn't know what I was doing, I had no degree, and I probably wouldn't recommend that, but I just cried out to Jesus. And I'm like, you have to help me, God. I'm making so many mistakes. And I said to her, I said, why do you call him a pimp daddy? I said, to me, a daddy is someone who takes care of you and protects you and loves you. She went ballistic on me.
Wow.
Every expletive, you effing this, how dare you? And I realized that it was a soul tie.
Yeah.
even though he abused her, she still had this weird soul tie with him. And I think it's one of those things where she could talk about him,
Right.
but I couldn't.
Right.
It's like my kids,
Right.
nobody else is going to talk about them.
Right.
But I just had to learn so much because you realize how these men control. So that's probably what happened to the woman
Yeah.
with the stepfather story.
Right. So sure enough, he left the family when she was 13 and she felt rejected by him.
Okay, now
Um,
that's crazy.
right.
Because the very person who beat her, but I guess it's kind of
That's
no attention is worse than bad attention,
right.
I
Yeah.
guess.
It was
Isn't
it
that
was what had
interesting?
become normal and what she received as love, you know. So then it
Wow.
wasn't long after that she found herself in pornography at the age of 15. She was
Wow.
in the sex film industry.
And it's so rampant today.
Right.
You hear statistics of the high percentage of pastors that
Mhm.
are addicted or have
Right.
been addicted to pornography
Right.
because it's so available.
Right.
There's options.
Yes.
And I think options are dangerous.
Yes, exactly. Right? It's just right there on your phone. You don't have to
Right.
go to a store or
No.
purchase anything. And then, so at 15, and then obviously she started, not obviously, but she started then stripping and prostituting and that whole world.
Because
And
their self-worth is destroyed. So they
yes,
think it's all their worth. And, she probably wasn't taught job skills.
right. And, at that point, you feel like you're so damaged, you might as well just keep going down that road. And so when she finally came to the Dream Center, the night before, she was actually raped by 3 of her high school friends.
Oh,
She was rail
you
thin,
can't
under 100
stand
pounds,
it.
and so frail, so weak and skinny. And then each month, and she's one of those stories you think there's no way, right?
Right. In the
Uh,
natural,
in
there
the
isn't.
natural. And each month, though, her chin started coming up. She started making eye contact, started smiling. And by the time she graduated, she was so bold and well spoken and could tell her story without any shame or guilt. I
Wow.
think that's beautiful to be able to say, okay,
Because
this is,
and it wasn't her fault.
it wasn't. And yeah. And just to be able to say it unashamedly, be set free from it, it has no
Yes.
power or control over you, I think is
Yes.
a beautiful thing that God does
Wow.
in the lives of people. So her story would be one of those dramatic stories. And
What is she doing today?
that's a good question. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'll, on our next episode,
Right,
I'll
right.
find out. I'll
Because I
do a
love
follow
to
up.
hear,
Yeah.
because when they're healed like that, they can sometimes go out and do such amazing things because they know what these girls have gone through.
Right.
So they have not only sympathy, but empathy
Right.
because they understand it.
Right.
So I think it's fun to hear, what they're doing now. And I've heard some of the girls, some of them said, I want a nursing degree.
Right.
I want to be able to help people and these women that come in that are raped, and I want to be able to counsel them as well as helping them physically. And
Hmm.
it's, a lot of them said they want to become therapists.
Right. A lot of them end up being drug
I
and
love
alcohol.
that.
Yeah.
I just love that because they get it
Right.
and they understand the stronghold that it really is on people.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So men, tell us one of the stories about one of the men that's come in that really just.
So I'll tell. Yeah, there's so many, but Martin is one of my favorite stories. He was reached out to on Skid Row. He had been down there for decades.
Decades living.
Decades.
Matthew and Pastor Tommy, they were there for 2 nights
Right.
and traumatized. And
Yeah.
when you've lived there for decades, you think, again, in the natural, how in the world would they ever get out of that?
Right. So when he came to the Dream Center, he was in his 50s. And one of the big mountains he thought was so unattainable for him was to earn his GED.
Wow.
But sure enough, he got his GED.
Now, what grade level did he come in? Do you remember?
I would guess
Probably
at first
very
grade,
low.
yeah.
Right.
So he did get his GED.
Wow.
And, our teachers in our adult education say more than actually teaching math and science, they're just encouraging people that they have the capacity to learn because
Right.
somewhere along the line they were told they were incapable.
You're stupid. You
Right.
never amount to anything.
And a lot of them end up being geniuses in certain subjects. And so
Amazing.
he got his GED, and then eventually he met his wife at the Dream Center, who also went through the program. And he now works in our fitness gym at the Dream Center. So, and he's been with us for over 10 years now. But
Wow.
he's a
Do you
life
think
that was
he's a
truly,
lifer? Do you think he'll stay at the
yeah,
Dream
I
Center
think so.
forever?
More than 80% of our staff came through our programs.
But I love that
Yeah.
because they can relate to the other people that come in
Right.
because they've been there.
Yes.
I think that's extremely healthy.
You know, and we use the women in our program to help us find things in other people's rooms.
Okay, that's
Yeah, we'll
hilarious.
send the girls into the homeless family program floors and just have them help us search for
Sweep it
things. Yeah, yeah.
because they know where they would have hid
Yeah,
things.
you're right. So then they hide the drugs and things like that. You know, there's a
Isn't
really
that
funny story.
amazing?
Yeah, at the Dream Center. We have so many random crazy stories, but there's one day a man showed up on our family floor program, and obviously everyone's very protective of that floor. We do have men on our
Yes,
family
because the
floor,
children there.
but a lot of times, you know, it's a domestic violence situation. So if there's someone they don't recognize showing up on the floor, they're very quick to react or
Sure.
respond. And so this man shows up on the floor, and he doesn't belong there. And one of the moms jumps up and says, "Who are you? Who are you here to see?" And this woman happens to be overweight. And he said, "Oh, I think I'm here to see you." She goes, "Me?" He goes, "Aren't you pregnant?" And of course, she's super offended by that. "No,
Oh,
I'm not pregnant."
okay. First of all, that's the worst thing to ever say to a woman
Right?
because if they're not, it's like, oh, there's no digging myself out of this one.
Right. So he stuck his foot in his mouth, but
Oh,
then sure enough, he was there to purchase the urine of one of the pregnant moms on the family floor
oh,
because they purchased pregnant urine. They used like a turkey baster, insert it into their girlfriend. They go into the welfare office. They pee on a stick to prove that they're pregnant, and then they are able to receive more welfare money.
okay. You know what? I'll tell you, I'm not crafty enough to
Yeah,
live on the street.
ingenuity. Well,
Are
I mean,
you
if they're all
kidding?
entrepreneurs, if they just
If they just use it for
tunneled it into the
good.
right direction. And there was
Right.
another funny story on the family floor. Um, so
Purchase for
our
urine.
director would try to pair up someone who had a dream for whatever the dream was with someone in our church who was in that occupation. So there was a man who wanted to start his own business. And our director didn't bother to ask what kind of business, but she then approached a business owner in our church and asked him, "Would you take him out to lunch and mentor him?" Said, "Sure."
That's so cool.
Yeah. So they went out to lunch. And then after the lunch, the businessman contacted our director and said, "Do you know what kind of business this guy wanted
Oh
to
no,
start?"
I'm
And
afraid.
she said, "No." And he goes, "Online pornography business."
At the Dream
At
Center.
the
It's
Dream
like
Center.
you're kind of missing the point here.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
But you know,
gosh.
if you don't know any
But they're
different,
rough. They
yeah,
come in green, you
yeah,
know?
right. Yeah.
Okay, so did he stay in the program?
Oh, he's in the family program, and obviously
Well, there you
we're
go.
cleaning the fish as they're coming in. You know, they're
Well,
not.
and I love that saying, you got to catch a fish before you can clean them.
Yeah,
And like you said, if you don't know, you don't know.
right. Like
So
there was
why
this mom on the family floor. She had had 6 abortions
are
within the first couple of months of being at the Dream Center. She had no idea that there was anything wrong with that. Was just normal. That was life. That's
it's
what you
just
do.
wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's all she knew in the world that she lived in.
right.
And where is she now? That's what I love
Ah,
hearing.
shoot, there's so many people I don't.
I know.
I
Well, we'll
know.
come back. We'll come
Well, we
back
need the
'cause there's
money to hire someone who tracks everyone and keeps
I
track of
know.
everyone.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
I know. That would be so fascinating because I know you have such a high percentage because A, their programs at the LA Dream Center are free of charge.
Hmm.
You can show up without a suitcase, without a toothbrush,
Hmm.
and they provide absolutely everything. And not only that, after the first year, if they're not ready, they stay for a second year and then you give
Yeah.
them a little bit more freedom, then a little bit more freedom as they go along. And then third year, they can actually go out
Yeah.
and get a college degree, they can work and then come back to the Dream Center.
Yeah. And transitions, which is what we call our
See,
third
that's
year, that's where they
beautiful.
work on the outside, save up $10,000, and then they're launched off into their new life.
And okay, and that's another thing.
Hmm.
That's what I love that you started the emancipation program
Yeah.
because these kids at 17, they've been tossed around, like you said, they feel
Hmm.
very unloved.
Hmm.
They do not have a dollar in their pocket. They're
Right.
given the clothes off their back. How in the world, especially a city like LA,
Right.
are they going to pay first month's rent, last security deposit? I mean, it's impossible.
Right.
So tell us how that started.
Yeah. So we noticed a common thread that so many of the people in our family program and the men and women in our discipleship program spent time in foster care. And the foster care was one of those issues I didn't want to look at because it was so painful for me. And I felt like
Right.
unless I can make a difference, I want to pretend like it's not happening.
Yeah, I know.
But,
And how many of us pretend like these things
right,
are not happening
right.
because we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. But there's always something you can do.
Right.
I think we always assume, oh, it means I have to bring a child into my home. There's so much more that you can do, even
Yes.
if you're not at a place to bring a child into your home. Um,
And how about making donations to the LA Dream Center? It's
yes,
not for the programs are free. How much does it cost a month to run the LA Dream Center?
we're operating on 1 million a month, but honestly, I think we need more like to be where we should be, where we have a healthy number of staff.
Right.
We're keeping up with the maintenance of the property and just being able to sleep a little better at night. I think we need about 2 million, would double it. But I do think at that point, then we could double our residents as well.
Right. Right. And
Right.
how many people for that money are you facilitating and helping?
We have 700 beds at the Dream Center.
Okay.
Yeah. And you think, with foster care, I think it averages out about $80,000 a year that our government is spending on per child in the foster care system. And then for prison is somewhere around 140,000 a year.
Right.
Right.
So you
You could
can
send someone to Harvard or,
right.
for that amount of money instead of
That's right.
But they test children around the kindergarten aged to determine how many prison beds they'll need in the future.
Wait. Say that again?
Yeah, they give tests. They give tests in schools to test reading levels and education levels to pre-plan how many beds will be needed in the prison system later. So instead of using that data to say how can we prevent them from
How
going to
can we
prison,
help this?
no, yeah,
Are you
That's unbelievable.
right.
That's
it's
just
mind-boggling.
yeah.
And I've heard too, you all can correct me if it's not true,
Yeah.
but isn't it such a high percentage of not having a father in the home?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would say this. We had an altar call one time where a man said, "If you hate your father, come down and pray." And my Tommy and I
Wow.
looked at each other like, "Who's going to say they hate their father?" It was the biggest altar call we've ever had.
Wow.
The fatherlessness is such a huge
Yeah,
issue.
because I mean, you feel abandoned
Hmm.
and maybe abused. And, it's that saying, broken or hurt people hurt people. It's
Yeah.
this cycle. And I've always, it's so easy for me to say because I was so blessed, you and I both. Our
Hmm.
parents even ministered and traveled around the world together. But coming from a safe, protected, loving home where our dads, loved us and took care of us and
Hmm.
provided for us. And, it's so easy for me before to say, well, you would think if a child was abused, they would want to break that pattern
Right.
because they know how hurtful it is, but it's all they know.
Hmm.
So it's just this vicious cycle.
70% of the kids in juvenile hall are there because
I knew it was a really
they've sexually abused someone. So 70% of the kids there. But
But that means
100% of
they
them were sexually abused.
100% of them were sexually abused
Yeah.
because a child just doesn't start doing that.
Yeah.
It's a learned thing,
Hmm.
which, I mean, this mankind, I always said, let me tell you something right now. You better be grateful I'm not God because I would have smoked
Yeah.
the entire human race thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys are dumbasses. Can we say that?
Yeah.
Asses in the Bible.
Yeah.
You're
Donkeys.
dumbasses and you keep doing the same thing. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine. God's
Yeah.
like, really?
Yeah. No,
You're
honestly,
still
his
doing
patience, his kindness, his goodness is
and grace and
beyond
mercy
beyond
way
anything.
more than any of us deserve.
Right.
It's
Or
just it's amazing to
yeah.
me. Wow. Okay, so in the emancipation floor,
Hmm.
how tough are the kids? Because teens are the toughest people in the world to deal with, I
Right.
think.
Yes.
Having raised kids,
It's very dramatic. And these young people, they're either very childlike and or very streetwise. And
well, a lot of them had to be to
right.
survive, right?
Right. And so we have a lot of turnaround in that program because they have to choose to want to be there. They're not forced at this point.
Right.
And a lot of them want to go out and try, see if they can make it on their own before they come and get help. But yeah, it's a very
It's hard
hard
for adults
demographic.
to
Yeah.
get out and make it on your own.
Hmm.
After a college education, it's
Right.
hard to get out and make it on your own.
Right.
So,
I'm 40 something, but
oh, honey, I'm 65.
yeah,
I
yeah.
could be your mother. Yes, I could.
I guess technically you could if you were very young, but um, I still run to my dad for guidance, for
I miss my
support.
dad every single day.
I
He was such a strength in my life, and to not have that,
Yeah,
I get it.
especially in my 20s, I leaned on him so much. My
Yes,
30s, and yeah, I can't even fathom trying to
I know.
navigate this life without my
I
dad.
know.
So my heart bleeds, and in the Bible it says that God gives a special grace and
Yes.
blessing over children who haven't had their father. But if they
Yes.
don't know that,
Widows and
how do they
orphans.
lean on that or glean from it if they don't
Right.
know that that's a promise that's been given to them?
Absolutely. So do these foster ones that try to go out and make it on their own, do they know that they can come back, that there's a
Yes.
safe place? Do many of them come back when they
Yes.
realize how tough it is out there on the streets or
Yes.
wherever?
Yeah.
Great.
But again, there's just so much, even in our adult program, there's a lot of turnaround, especially in the first 30 days.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, that's the toughest, and they're kicking habits.
right.
And I love, I mean, I don't love, but I think it's so funny that the only thing you give them when they're detoxing is chocolate.
Yeah.
You can't give them any kind of
We're not a medical
no
facility, so we're not
medications.
able to do that. But I love what one of our directors said years ago. He was asked, "What is your success rate?" And he said, 100%. He's like, "Come on, it's not 100%." He go, "Yeah, 100%, because the word of God never returns void." And
Wow.
so, in
I love
from
that.
our mentality, we know that every time you're loving on someone, you're pouring your heart into someone, you're speaking the word of God over someone, you're planting seeds. And
Yes.
maybe because we trust God is in control, God is the creator, and he's chasing each individual down,
Yes.
we know maybe we're just one stop on their journey. It's
Right.
God's job to change the heart of
But
that
they
person.
never forget.
It's a seed. You plant a seed, and maybe you're
That's
just one
right.
stop, and
I
maybe they
love
have to
that.
come back. But the word of God never returns void. So every time you're speaking over somebody, you have success. Otherwise,
Right.
you'd go crazy, pull your hair out, because some of the people that you think, oh, they've got it, end up falling.
Right.
And then some of the people that you think there's no chance they're going to make it, they end up being your superstar. So
Isn't that
it's only God who
amazing?
knows what's inside of us.
Well, and I think it's how much faith they have and if they take it seriously, because
Hmm.
it is tough and it's a lot of work for these people to have to fight an addiction that's physical and emotional and psychological. I
Hmm.
mean, they always say, whoever they is, that kicking a habit of drugs and alcohol is probably the toughest thing in the world you could ever do.
Right. And then
And I
why do we
believe that.
blame people for getting addicted to something that's addictive?
They're putting it out there, so they will become addicted,
Yeah,
right?
it is an addictive substance. So
It's
why are we
true.
surprised that they're getting addicted?
Right,
And I think alcohol is probably one of the hardest one because it's so socially acceptable everywhere you
right.
go, and it's in your face
Everywhere.
everywhere.
It's
And then,
life.
like, we get mad at, like, why are you addicted to it? Well, it's an addictive substance. So
Absolutely, but then again, people are just a little bit more interesting when you
right.
have a drink. Just a little
But
bit funnier, just
but
a little,
yeah, but you go through a hard time, and maybe you
you
start
lean on it.
lean on it more than you should, and
Right.
yeah, it's easy. It's a slippery slope.
It
But
is.
that's where, as long as you're, yeah, I've learned so much in the last couple of years about just releasing and
Wow.
loving on God and letting Him fixing those things that make you want to numb. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
yeah.
That's what he does.
Hmm.
That is what he does. And, I remember when I went through my divorce, I did the same thing. I'd come home at night and I'm in this big house alone, and I felt like our family loving home went to like living in a tomb. It
Yeah.
was cold. You came over many nights and
Yeah.
were there with me, but so I would have a glass of wine to numb the pain,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden one didn't do it after a while, so you have two, and I thought, wait a minute, when you're sitting at home and you're having 2 glasses of wine by yourself, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But
Well, because it can't fix it anyways,
it's
right?
not gonna fix it. It
Right.
just numbs the pain temporarily.
Right.
You have to gut it out. You have to deal with the problem. I had to get on my face. I can actually tell a really funny story. So, when I went through my divorce, I didn't know what to do with myself. I honestly didn't, because I was used to getting dinner prepared, or Michael and I would go out to dinner, or the kids would come over. And all of a sudden I'm alone. I'm like,
Mhm.
and I wasn't going to call my married friends and say, you want to go to dinner with me? That's not fair to take
Mhm.
them away from their spouses. So I thought, what in the world am I going to do with myself? Well, I became Forrest Gump. And that was when those shuffles just came out, and you could listen to more than. Do you remember the old days with the cassettes
Yes.
and the disc man?
Mhm.
And when you would go out running, you would jump a curb and it would jump,
Yeah.
but you thought, "It's so cool that I have 8 songs on
Right,
one
right.
disc." Well, then that little shuffle came out, and I thought, "Oh, man, I'm living." And I would put sermons on it, and I'd put worship music, and I just walked. I became Forrest Gump because I didn't know what to do with myself.
Right.
So I would walk, and I would walk, and I would walk. And, not many people in LA walk.
Right.
You just don't see a lot of people out walking around. And so I was selling the home that we lived in, and this couple, they were a Bollywood couple. He produces a lot of the Bollywood movies. And he walks in because I had my godmother there, and he says, "Wait a minute, Jerry, have I told this story?"
Not that I've never heard it.
Okay, well then let's
Yeah.
edit that part out.
Yeah.
Okay. So he comes walking in, and no, here's what he did. This is hilarious. He walks in and he goes, "Wait a minute. Wait. Wait. This You live here?" And I go, "Yeah, I live here." And he goes, "Okay, well, that's your mother, and you're living with your mother." I go, "No." I go, "Actually, it's my house." He goes, "Wait a minute. This is your house?" And I go, "Yes. Why are you surprised?" He goes, "I am so grateful. I thought you were a crazy homeless woman." I go, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I see you walking in West Hollywood, in Beverly Hills, in Santa Monica, and you're always talking to yourself." And I was praying.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I literally thought you were a crazy homeless woman." I go, "I was wearing Lululemon. I mean, come on. My hair was clean. Seriously." He goes, "I just thought you were crazy. And
Yeah.
all you did was just go around and walk."
And
So I
something
was
that stood out to me during that time in your life is that you said you would try to read the Bible,
I
but
couldn't do it.
nothing was processing, nothing
I
was
could not
clicking.
do it.
And so that then you started reading or listening to sermons instead.
Yes.
And I went through a really dark time, and
Mhm.
I was experiencing the same thing. I
Yes.
read the Bible like I normally did. I'd try to do my devotion like I had always done. But
It didn't stick.
nothing was penetrating my heart. Nothing would, yeah, I couldn't process anything.
Excuse me.
And so I started doing that as well. I started just listening to sermons, but I was able to,
All I could do.
yeah, I
It was
remember that
all
lesson
I
from
could
you.
do. But you know what? Don't be tough on yourself.
Yeah. We go through seasons
Because
where,
everybody goes through
yeah,
seasons where you're devastated, your heart's been hammered. It
yeah,
happens to everybody.
yes.
And God still wants us to turn to Him.
Hmm.
But if we have times where we just can't get it together and we can't focus, God understands. And I love that saying that God's always there. So if you feel like your relationship has become distant, guess who's moved?
Right.
Because He is there, and He created us to have a relationship with Him. That's why we're on this earth.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from Romeo the dog.
Right.
Is we are created as physical, mental, and spiritual beings to have a relationship with our creator. And I love the verse that says, because there's so many people that get into the crystals and,
Mhm.
sage and all this. And I love the verse that says, "Why would you worship the creation
Right.
and not worship the creator?"
Right.
And I thought, you know what, God, I'm going straight to the source.
Hmm.
I am not going to rely on stuff like that. I'm going straight to the throne room. I'm going to you.
Right. And the
And
fact
then,
that people do seek a higher power in all of these other
yes,
religions and all of these other avenues is because God has created in us a need for something higher.
yes,
But He's just meant to be the one who fills that.
yes.
And a book that really brought me through a dark time was called The Night is Normal by Alicia Britt Chole. One of the greatest books I've ever read on disillusionment. And in the first part,
Oh,
she explains what disillusionment is, and she considers it a gift because she says it means you were believing a lie. So when you realize you find yourself in a place of disillusionment,
Oh, that's good.
be thankful. It means now your eyes have been opened, and so it's
Yes.
like this like pop moment where you're like, oh, I was believing a lie. And then she goes into being disillusioned with God, being disillusioned with others, and being disillusioned with yourself, and how common it is for all of us in our journey to go through a dark season. And it's kind of a testing season, a
Everybody
refiner's
does.
fire.
Right.
But yeah, that book really helped pull me through.
Wow. I love that.
Hmm.
Well, and people are always going to fail us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we blame God when
Right.
people fail us.
Right.
But God doesn't fail us. People fail us. And I actually had someone ask me after I went through my divorce, they're like, well, do you think you made a mistake and married the wrong person? I go, hell to the double no.
Hmm.
I loved him. And
Yeah.
I have my two sons, Army and Victor, and my two grandchildren. And I have Angie, my daughter-in-law. And I said, I didn't make a mistake.
Hmm.
Now, did Michael fail me? He was wounded. He was abused as a child in every way, if
Hmm.
you know what I mean. And we never really dealt with it.
Right.
You can sweep problems under the carpet and not really get down to the issue, which is what I love about the Los Angeles Dream Center, is because you not only teach them a relationship with God, but you dive deep into the issue. Because what is that saying? There's always a why before the what.
Yeah.
There is a reason why you had to medicate or why you went through the things that you did. And life's a choice.
Yeah. And since God makes it available, he has like this buffet table of healing available to you. Why wouldn't you take it?
Exactly.
And he doesn't heal you just enough to get through. If you want, he can heal you as if the problem never happened. Not obviously it happened.
Right.
That doesn't go away. But he can heal you in a way that there's no stench or it doesn't affect you in any way. It doesn't affect your decision making. It doesn't
Right.
affect your ability to love or receive love or give love. It
Yes.
it doesn't have an impact on you. He can heal you that
Right.
much.
Well, will you come back for one more?
Yes.
And let's talk about how God healed our hearts.
Yeah.
Because we've both been hammered,
Yeah.
and as everyone has. And let's talk about how God brought us out.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming.